Well, I do believe I'm going to end this hydroponics experiment that I have going on here, my little project in the water. By the way, welcome to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I am the host of all these green growing things that I call my friends. This plant, this tomato plant, was featured in last week's VoodooGarden program. I was having issues with pH, mainly in the hydroponics. A little bit in my soil plants, but not really so much. Mainly in the hydroponics. I tested my water. I found out that I have alkaline water coming out of my well. Isn't that a joy? So I had a little fix. Now, I've used this before to great success of adding a little bit of vinegar or anything acidic to the water and countering that, and it helps the plants go back to their normal selves. Well, that little fix I thought might fix, well, hold on a second, I think I have something in my eye. Hey, it's your finger. Oh, you're so funny. But my fix on the water didn't work as well as I'd hoped. What happened is, and I don't know how, I can't explain this because I don't have a huge scientific brain. I put a little vinegar in the water, I tested it, it was perfect. And I ran the compost tea into here, the new compost tea into here, thought it would green up, and it did green up just a little bit on the new shoots. Now that it did do. Yet the leaves that were out here that were halfway decent, the ones that I left on there, they continued with this downward spiral. I have no idea why that happened, and frankly, it doesn't concern me that much. This was an experiment. This was not my ego on the line. This was not my reputation on the line. This was just something that I was sitting upstairs and I thought, ooh, I could try that. And I've tried it. I've seen the results of it. I'm not really that happy with it. It's not something that I actually enjoy anymore because it seems like a lot of work to balance this type of thing. My last hydroponics, great success. I appreciate that. I enjoyed that. This one here, I'm going to have to just be honest with you. I don't believe this is a success. And along with everything else around here, I like to be brutally honest with you. This was not a success. This was not something that I actually enjoyed. It was okay for a little while, and then I just kind of, I have to admit, I'm not finding any kind of joy in doing this. Some people love hydroponics. I, on the other hand, like I've mentioned before many times, I'm a soil gardener. I like to get my hands into the soil. It's a lot less hassle for me because I have an ally in the soil. Soil is a living, breathing thing. It tends to do things by itself. I assist it, but it does all the work. Whereas hydroponics, for me, I was doing all the work. So if there was any little thing, I didn't have my little helpers working with me in the soil, the microbes, fungi, bacteria, little bugs, things like that, that help the soil be the soil. So with the hydroponics, it was basically me carrying the load the whole way, and I really didn't much enjoy that. So that being said, I'm going to end the hydroponics project, yet I'm not going to just toss the baby out with the bathwater. I want to save this, and that's why I brought you in here. I thought, well, since we do have something that we have to get rid of, and it's not the most pleasant thing, but then again, it's not so awful sad because nothing is actually going to die in this process. I'm just going to transform it from hydroponic to soil. And the reason that I want to do this is because I want to grow this tomato outside. This is one that I grew last year and I saved the seeds, and I'm growing it this year. That's what this is. This is Mule Team Tomato, Boxcar Willie's delicious larger brother or cousin. I want to grow this in a project that I have planned for this spring on the other channel, the Practice 55712 channel. I want to do this in a very special way. And in order to do that, I have to have a healthy, thriving plant to start out with. I don't want to start out with an anemic plant. So I could either, one, plant seeds and hope I get a nice plant before it's planting time outside. I don't have a lot of time. Or two, I can take cuttings off of this. The cuttings aren't really that big, so they would be a little bit, I don't know, iffy getting started. Or three, I can take the entire plant, get rid of all the beads and stuff, pull it out of the water, trim the roots down, trim the plant down, and plant it in soil. Give it time to grow a healthy root system so that it can go out into the soil this spring. That was my option. That's what I decided to go with. So I want to do that, and I also want to show you a couple other things because there are some other things that are actually doing really well, and I want to show those off to you. But right now, this big, heavy, nasty thing is going to be taken apart and put into here. I figured, what the heck? Let's see what the roots look like. Let's just get on with this. It's going to be a sloppy mess, no matter how we shuffle the deck. Okay, I guess I'm winging it because I've never done this before. I guess the first thing I'm going to do is lift this out of the water and put it on my compost tray lid to let the moisture kind of leak out of it because I don't want water all over my floor. Huh, not bad looking roots really. Well, I don't know of any nice way to do this or gentle way, so I guess we'll just do it the only way I know. Pour out the beads. Oh, nice looking root system, look at that. I might as well show this as I go. It had a nice spread to the roots as it went through the beads. Now, one issue I know I'm going to have is getting all these beads off of this because the roots are clinging onto it. That is going to suck. Yet, what I think I'm going to end up doing is, hold on, be right there. Okay, I'm going to trim off a lot of the roots because tomato plants are fantastic at setting roots down. So what I'm going to do is just lift it up. This isn't going to be very gentle on the roots, but then again, tomatoes are very forgiving. I don't need all of these roots in here, so I'm going to trim off the lower ones. There really is not a need for those. I'm usually not much of a root trimmer. I like to leave all the roots I can, but really, this was an extensive amount of roots, and that's because it had to go down into the solution to get nutrients, whereas I'm going to be starting with some rich potting mix and trimming off some of this not so great foliage, so it won't really have a lot to support while the roots are taking root. The roots are taking root, I get it. While they're taking root into the potting mix. First things first, let's get the soil in here. Now I'm back to what I know best. Yes, getting my hands dirty. My favorite part of gardening. I'm going to use this old faded plastic tub and then probably send it to the recyclers after I'm done using it. It has served its purpose here in the Voodoo Garden for many, many years, and I do appreciate it. But it's time to let it go. It's getting ugly. It's starting to get weak, and I know it's going to crack anytime, and I don't want that to happen while I'm growing something. Let me get my hand out of your way so you can see what I'm doing. This is just a basic transplant method that I do for my tomatoes, and I always bury a little bit of stem, if not a lot of stem, when I transplant my tomatoes. Those of you who have grown tomatoes or you've been tuning here a while, you know exactly why I'm doing this, right? Yep. Well, the reason I'm doing this, for those of you who are new, is because if you bury a tomato stem underneath the soil, it will put out roots. And the tomato plant will get stronger because of that. Tomatoes are vines. They're a natural vine. They grow up, fall over, vine along the ground, and where they touch the ground, they put down roots. And as they grow, they get stronger and stronger because of that. It's a really wonderful thing to watch, the way that this plant can survive. There we go. I have it all the way up, and some of the suckers, the side branches, are a little bit buried. That's okay. Okay. I do believe that's done. We got it watered, we got it pruned. It is so not looking good right now. But then again, I know from experience that this will eventually perk up. I gave it a good solid watering. I gave it a trim to get all the ugly looking stuff off of there. And that also takes the load off the plant so that it can adjust a lot easier. It doesn't have all this foliage to support after the transplant. Some of you who take clippings and you put them in a glass of water, you know, or into soil, you notice that they kind of wilt initially. Well, the less leaves you have on there, the less load the plant has to carry, the less wiltage, the less stress. So I take off a bunch of the old stuff that it doesn't really need, give it some water. I'm going to give it some good light over here, and we're going to follow the progress on this. And I guarantee you, I guarantee you, it's going to look a lot better in the future. It has to, because I'm counting on this to be my outdoor plant. So it has to strengthen up now in the 2 months that I have until planting time outside. So it has 2 months to get its mind right, to get its roots right, before it goes outside and hardens off. Because if I hardened it off right now, it would die. I can guarantee you that thing would die. It is not healthy enough to withstand the stresses of hardening off outside. Here is a tomato plant. This is the Praxis 55712 cherry. They call it the Prax cherry. And I'll remind you, this is not a tomato plant that I invented. It's a tomato plant that already existed as the bush cherry red. I just enhanced it by breeding it down to what its ancestors used to be. And the last time I showed this, it was just a little tiny booger. And now it's a big booger. I want to show you this because this is what a tomato plant should look like. And I also have some peppers. I want to show you how I've been pruning those so that you might want to do yours if it's still early enough in your area to start prepping your plants. This way it gives them a better shot of surviving, thriving, and producing better once they go outside. My pride and joy. Yep, that is a healthy looking plant. Now this one grew up and it put out suckers. That's one of the things the Praxis cherry does. It does really well is it puts out suckers. Some folks tell you to cut those things off because they're just going to drain the plant. I say otherwise, and I've shown otherwise, that suckers are actually the strength of your plant. They can help your plant grow and produce like you would not believe. It depends on your growing method. My method promotes this. Now what I did is right inside, put it right up in your face, I took the main plant and snipped off the main growing tip right there. Yep, you can see where I snipped it off. Now I'm going to turn this sideways so you can see it put out suckers, new side branches all over the place. Not these leaf branches here. These are not suckers. It's the main growing branch. You can see that it has done that. I'm going to turn this around, all the way around so that you can see it. And try not to jerk it around too much on you. And you can see the growth. That's a nice, strong plant, and what it does is it puts out suckers low, so it has a low center of gravity. Now when I plant this outside, these suckers of course are going to be a lot taller. They're going to be about another foot or two taller. I'm going to trim the leaves off of them, bury this plant deeper when I plant it outside, and those branches, those suckers that are buried, are going to put out roots, a lot of roots. So it's going to have a huge amount more roots then after I transplant it than what it has now. The more roots, the faster it grows, and also the better it produces, and also one last thing, the better it can support what it produces. Some folks, you may have an issue where you plant a tomato outside, it grows well, starts producing, and then it starts looking like crap, for lack of a better word, once it's loaded with tomatoes and the tomatoes don't look that great, maybe they're not as big as you want. The plant looks like it's having a stroke, trying to keep up, and you have to water it all the time. It's always wilting, it's always dropping fruit, it has health issues. That's because your root system is not a complete root system to support the massive load. So, like, if you want to run, you want to carry a lot of weight with you, you better have strong legs. And that's the same thing with the tomato plants. If you want a plant that's going to produce and be able to hold on to that fruit and take it all the way to fruition, you got to have a good solid base. That means good quality soil and a good, strong, extensive root system that can support it and make sure that you have good production. Now, we're going to move on to peppers. We're going to start out tiny and we're going to work our way up. This one here, this little bugger, this is called Pusa Jwala. I'm going to put it right down here. Pusa Jwala. This is an Indian pepper. It's from the Middle East. It's a spicy one that's used in Indian cooking and other cooking where you need spice, but you also love flavor. I grew this last year outside. It produced, they look like Thai peppers, but they're not Thai peppers. I ate one. It kicked my butt in the way of heat, but it impressed me in the way of flavor. So much so that I saved seeds and I put them on my website, a limited amount of seeds. And I think I only have a few packets left. I don't source these from outside. These seeds that I have are the ones that I took from my plant. And this is from one of the seeds from my plant. It germinated well. It's growing nicely. It's going to go outside. I'm going to grow it this season and harvest seeds to put back on the website because people love this thing. I didn't think that it would go that far. I had no confidence in it, and I was surprised. This little plant surprised me in its productivity and its flavor. So I'm going to put this one outside when the season starts, but this one we'll never see outside. This one is my little ghost. Remember, I grew a ghost pepper and a scorpion. I showed you that program. I think I had a link on the last program called Monsters in the Voodoo Garden. This is the one that got about 4 feet tall, 5 feet across, a monster pepper. I gave lots of tutorials on how to prune your pepper for better yields. Now, it doesn't mean it gives it better yields. It means it will support stronger yields, the way I explained with the tomato plant. You do the same with your peppers, only you don't bury them a lot deeper. When you transplant, you may want to take maybe a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch over at the stem and bury it each time you transplant it, and that'll help put a little bit more roots down, but they don't do it quite like tomatoes. This one here is going to be an indoor plant. I'm going to prune it, shape it, transplant it, and see what I can do inside this voodoo garden. Now I'm going to make sure I give it good soil, good water, and also pruning. And then to show you the pruning, and not to get all into it or anything, but pruning is very, very important. What you need to make sure you do is prune your plant early, and then when it goes outside, then you stop the pruning and you let it grow and let it start producing. The pruning is the beginning. This plant would look very similar to this plant if I hadn't pruned it. Just a main stem and a few side branches. What I did is right in the center, like I always do and like I always mention, I snipped it. You can see right in there, I snipped the growing tip. All that you see here are 4 branches, 2 coming out this way, 2 coming out this way. And of course, I'm going to give you a look because I always want to make sure that you understand what I'm doing here. The branches grew out and they form nicely and they're strong, and it's a low center of gravity and the branches are very low. So when this plant, this is going to go outside. What this is, it's a sweet habanero. It's the one that I wanted to grow for my friend Mike because he wants habaneros, but he doesn't want the hot that goes with it. This one is already actually starting to flower. I'm going to probably pinch those things off because I don't want it flowering. I want it to actually just grow the plant right now. And if it does, maybe I'll leave a couple on there, because when I put it outside, that's when I stop pruning it. So right now, I want to do all the pruning I can. I promote these 4 side branches or more, and I want them to get nice and strong and thicken up. Each time you prune your plant, the stem behind the prune mark will get stronger. The one behind that will get even stronger. It's an exponential type of thing, kind of like trees. Main trunk is super strong, the branches not quite as wide, and then each time that branch branches out, it's a little thinner. But you want to start out with a good foundation. This will have a low center of gravity, which will keep it from flopping all over the place. I won't need to stake it. That's one thing that I think will be kind of nice. Don't need to cage it or stake it. And in Iowa, where we have hurricane force winds, if this thing can bear fruit, hold the fruit and not have to be staked and produce an abundance beyond what you can possibly imagine, then we have a success. So I want you to follow along with this if you want to grow your plants in this manner. This is just an option for you. I offer options. You can take it, you can leave it. It's totally up to you. I always feel like Santa Claus when I put my little babies on my What do you want for Christmas? Oh, well, I don't want to be dead at that time. Well, I'll see what I can do. These are my plants. This is the progress that I'm having so far. I'm pretty happy with everything overall. We'll see how the hydroponics baby does in the soil, and we'll also see how this goes. Now, by the way, if you have any questions at all concerning prepping your plants for the spring garden, indoor gardening, whether it's vegetables, ornamentals, doesn't matter what it is. If you have a question, let me know. Post it in the comment section below. I will give you the very best answer I possibly can. Also, if you just enjoy following along, you don't have to post a question. You don't have to post a comment. You can be a silent viewer. It doesn't matter to me. As long as you're having a good time, then my job is complete. I've done my work. I've done it well. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here in the Voodoo Garden to see the hydroponics from start to finish, and also for the plants that I got going on here. I really do appreciate you visiting me. I really do. Until next week or the week after that, I'm really not quite sure. I got some projects coming up that I have to deal with outside, so I'll see what I can do about getting a program out next week. Oh, I have a plant growing in here. I have no idea what it is. It came out of my potting soil. I have no idea what it is. I'm going to ask you next time. I'll bring it out next time. I don't have time now. I want you to identify this for me because I honestly, flat out don't know what I'm growing. I could be growing something illegal, legal, poisonous. I have no idea. But I can tell you, it's doing good. It's enjoying itself in here. So I really don't know if I have a friend or trespasser. Tune in for that and also a few other things I got going on here. Until then, this is Ray and his green little buddies. We're out of here.